Here we are.
Hello. I'm
Here we are
so
again.
excited.
I know, me too.
Hello, welcome.
I think we should introduce ourselves so nobody gets confused. I'm Mom, and you are?
My name's Allie. Do you want to say your actual name? Do you want to go by the alias of Mom?
I think, well, Deborah, I think we can do that, but I am Mom, and you are, what do we call you?
Well, you're my mom.
Yeah, I
You
know.
can call me by my name.
Yeah, okay, we'll call you by your name, not daughter.
No. She's super
I
weird.
know, it would be weird.
Do you Yeah,
No, we're good.
cuz like if you don't want to go by your own name, I guess that's fine. You can make
No,
up
no,
one.
because if somebody sees me, they're gonna see that I'm me, and then I won't be able to be incognito.
Right, yeah. So,
So we have to kind of
uh,
own it.
yeah, do you want to introduce yourself again?
Yeah, I'm Deborah.
I'm Allie. Hello. We are mother and daughter.
Yes.
It's true.
I'm Mom, just in case there's any confusion.
Yeah, just in case somebody's confused, like, oh, which one
Exactly.
is it?
Which one
Yeah,
is who?
yeah. I'm 23, and
And I'm not gonna say how old I am.
fair enough. You don't have
I'm
to.
in my 50s. I'll own that part of it.
Okay. Um, yeah. I'm so used to like introducing myself and saying how old I am. That's like so natural for me.
Yeah.
But
As you get up into your 30s and 40s and
you
50s,
won't
it's
want to
kind
do
of
that
like,
anymore.
no, maybe they won't notice.
Yeah,
Maybe they won't notice that wrinkle or that wrinkle.
for sure. This is something that we wanted to start um for a very long time. Originally, she and I were thinking like, let's make it a podcast. Like we should do a podcast. But then like the more I was like looking into it and stuff and the more that I kind of thought about it, I was like maybe it should just be a YouTube channel that like has more of a podcasty feel because that's the stuff that I like watching
Right.
and that's the stuff that like I don't know. I like the overall way that
Yeah.
it's done and it seems so much more casual and so much more relaxed.
It is. It is. It's a lot more casual. I think that it's a lot more real as
Yeah.
far as,
Yeah. And I like the idea of like better sound quality
Yeah.
and like that kind of stuff. Um and but also I liked the idea of and I've always loved YouTube and stuff like that, so that's
Yeah,
always been
you've spent a
something
lot of
that
time doing that kind of stuff. I never
love
even
it.
really got it, like, because 'cause I'm in that category. Of that doesn't really get the YouTube and stuff like that, but I know that
The
e
YouTube, yeah.
yeah, every time I need to learn how to do something, I usually find it on YouTube.
It's true.
Piano-wise, music-wise, everything like that. Somebody has done it, and somebody will tell me how to do it.
It's true,
It
yeah.
is, it's really true.
Yeah, it's a great platform,
Yeah,
and it's something that, like, um well, I guess I'll just kind of go into it. So I feel like
yeah,
before we start on anything else, I kinda wanna talk about for a minute just, like, why each one of us wanted to start this
yeah,
because we both kinda came together collectively, but, as far as on my end, like, again, I've always loved YouTube, I've always thought it was a really cool platform. When I was a kid, I always wanted to,
mhm.
like, film myself
Which
and,
I didn't
like
know, by the
yeah.
way.
Well, yeah, I mean, I would take, like, your little Verizon flip phone, and I would, like, go out in the
I just didn't know
backyard.
that you guys
I
were.
wasn't putting it up, I wasn't
Oh,
uploading
oh, okay,
it.
okay,
Yeah. Oh,
alright.
no, that was one time with, um,
It's
I
always the one time when you find out later, "Oh, it's just one time."
with my best friend, she and I put up, like, one YouTube video one time, and then her mom scolded us,
It's like,
and
"You don't
it
know
was
what you're
like
getting into."
yeah, 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 and she was right, like, I'm glad in the end that she stopped us because we were just too young to
Yeah.
understand, and it
I think
was
that
not a good
yeah,
idea.
I think that a lot of things is, like, you don't understand until you get a little bit older. I
Yeah.
mean, I think that that's for me, that's kind of part of why I wanted to do this with you, is just the idea that, like, from my point of view, things look very different than they look from your point of view. Like,
Right.
and I feel like that's something that it's nice to compare that because it's just a different view. Like, I can learn from you, you can learn from me. We don't have to, like, not learn just because we're mother-daughter.
Yeah, it's true, and I think you and I both have learned a lot from each other, and so we always have incredibly long conversations
Yeah.
about all sorts of topics. Like you and I have a pretty open door policy, and it's taken us a long time to get to that point.
Yep.
And like that, the next thing that I would love to go into is kind of our story and like how we kind of got to be as close as we are.
Yeah.
But before that, I just want to say that I always felt like our conversations that we have, like, while we're just sitting in the kitchen or whatever,
Mhm.
and we all of a sudden start getting on a subject and we're, like, talking for hours and hours. I always felt like it would be so cool to like invite people into that. Like
Yeah, me
invite
too.
people into these like really interesting conversations that we have with each other
Yeah.
about things that everybody goes through. And I think a lot of it, I mean, obviously, like we're both women, so a lot of it will be more in that realm of like things that tend to be I don't even want to call them like woman issues because
Mhm.
that's kind of silly, but I think like it's coming from two women's perspectives, I
Yeah,
guess.
yeah, we
So
don't have the
we're
guys, yeah.
limited, and I know that,
Yeah,
but I always thought that it was really cool how much we would talk about it, and you and I have different views
yeah,
about
very different.
things. And a lot of times we agree in the end on things, but we come from different generations. We
Yeah,
come from different like just two different time periods, with different experiences
right.
growing up, and
Very
so
different experience. Well, actually, there's some similarities if you look back
that's true. Yeah.
at that what happened to in our family with the alcohol and the drinking and stuff like that really happened to me also. And so it became, you know, it became its own prophecy. You know, you grew up with it and then you created that cycle
Well,
of,
so if you want to go into that and give some context, we can sort of switch into that now. So that's kind of why we wanted to do it, was just because we both feel like we had really interesting conversations, really deep
yeah,
conversations, and things that I would love to like have other people be able to listen to just for like a different perspective, or just because maybe a lot of people are thinking the same way that one of us does or that both of us do,
right,
and maybe you don't have the same relationship like with your parent, and or maybe you don't have somebody that likes to talk about this kind of stuff or go really deep into certain things, and really talk about feelings and emotions and that kind of stuff. So I
right.
thought it was really cool to like be able to let people in on these
Yeah,
conversations that
I
we have,
agree.
and be able to interact with others about it and not just keep it between us.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
if you now want to go kind of into like a little bit of your backstory, and kind of how we kind of got to um, where we are now as far as
Yeah,
being so close, because growing up, as a kid, I never thought that we would be this close, and I don't think you did either.
I didn't know. I didn't either. Well, I mean, I grew up, just like I said, I grew up with great parents in the beginning, and then my dad and mom divorced. And once they divorced, it's like everything in the world kind of fell apart, and my dad started drinking, and then it kind of went from there. It was like it was like the nice little family that we had until age 11 was just busted apart, and it wasn't what it used to be. And so I feel like I spent most of my life trying to fit that back together, like that 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 little family that we had up until that point or whatever. I feel like I was kept looking for things to fit in that place of a missing parent, that kind of thing. And I think that in that I didn't have a lot of self confidence in kind of going through relationships and then getting married and having kids. I think I didn't have a lot of confidence in my own self. And so I started to medicate that and medicate those feelings of insecurity, of I'm not doing it right. I'm trying so hard and nothing is coming out the way I wanted it. My marriage isn't what I want. And little by little, it's just taking that to down to a road where, as you know, it's just so dark through rehabs and various things. And I think that it you don't realize how much you carry on a cycle or how much what you do affects your kids, like what your decisions are that how they wind up affecting your children. You think that it's not going to affect them, but it does. Yeah, I always thought, well, it's just me. I'm the only one hurting, and it doesn't wind up that way.
Right. Yeah. Well, and yeah, so through, I would say, um, gosh, I think from the time that I was about 6 until
Mhm.
sometime in high school,
Somewhere, yeah, early high school.
early high school, yeah.
Hmm.
Um, so for a span of a little less than 10 years, you struggled with alcoholism,
Yep.
like, and there were times where things were good and there were times where things were bad. And then eventually, if you don't want to put this in, we don't have
Yep.
to, but eventually, during my, I believe it was my 6th grade year, you ended up going to jail.
Yep.
Yeah. And that was, do you want to explain why I don't even think I know exactly why you
Well, it
went.
was a string of things. I had a DUI with an accident that I was able to get out of with community service, and then but I still was going down that road, and I couldn't. I could get stopped for a little while, and then I would start again because the feelings would come back up, and I would start drinking again because I had too many feelings that I didn't know what to do with. Got another DUI, and then a week later got another DUI, and that progression, the judge was like, "You have jail time, and that's just what you have." And so that's how I wound up in
Yeah,
with
cause
that.
I remember you just, like you were scheduled to go to court one day, and I got home from school, and dad was like, "Oh, well, you're, like, mom's not coming home today." And I was like, "Well, why? Like, where is she going?" And then he was like, yeah, he was pretty actually, he was very honest with me. He really didn't sugarcoat it. He was like, "I think she's going to jail." And I was
Yeah,
like, "Oh, sick." But, like, I also like, there was really not a lot of talk about for how long or,
yeah,
like, anything like that, so it was, like, just enough information to scare me.
right.
Um, but yeah, so then it was like, you ended up being in jail for about 3 months,
Yeah, it wound up being, yeah, about 3 months.
and dad and I would come and visit you every week and, every Sunday, right?
Yep, every Sunday.
Yeah.
I had my one thing that I could look forward to
Yeah. Well, and
every
I looked
Sunday.
forward to it too.
Yeah,
Like, it
it was
was
like
like
the joy of my existence at that point.
yeah. Well, and so, like, that might sound kind of weird to be like, um to be kind of so excited to visit your mom in jail. But first of all,
It
I
is kind
again, like, I was
of
very young.
it
I
does sound
was
kinda weird. It's
yeah,
like, "Oh, okay." Yeah, that
I
is
was
kinda
maybe
weird.
I was 11 or 12.
Yeah, something.
Um and I was in elementary school. Like, I was um grappling with a lot of different emotions because before you went to jail and, like, as I was growing up and stuff like that, um I had a lot of anger towards you
Right.
and a lot of pain because I felt like me and I have 2 older brothers, um, me and my siblings, like, didn't matter enough,
Ugh,
um,
yeah.
in order to yeah, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Didn't matter
That's what we're
enough.
here for. I feel like that's what we're here for. We're here for the reality of the situation because I think that in any parent or in any situation where there's addiction or there's anything like that, I think that nobody ever once somebody gets sober or gets clean, there's nobody ever really goes back and says, "What did I do though in the meantime?" Like, "Oh, I'm sober, but what about the kids? What about the family? How do they feel? Like, what's left for them? You guys are just left with anger." I'm like, "Oh, I'm sober. Oh, yay." And you guys are like, "Yeah, but that doesn't take away all the crap that you did, before that." And it takes a lot of work to get to where you're okay talking about that, I think. So that's why we're, here we are.
Right, yeah. Well,
Mhm.
and I think the one of the reasons why we're so close now is because you were open to having those conversations with me,
Yeah.
because I am a very verbal processor and I need to be able to tell people how I feel. I need to be able to get out those emotions because if I don't, I feel like I haven't been heard. Um and yeah, so I had a lot of anger like towards you, and it I was really sitting in the fact that, like, I was like, she doesn't, like, care about me,
Yeah.
and, like, she doesn't care about, like, this family, and, like, she doesn't really have a lot of, empathy towards us or
Right.
anything like that, and so, for a long time, I carried a lot of anger and a lot of resentment
Yeah.
towards you because I was like, "If you don't care about me, like, I don't care about you," you
Right.
know? And I
Yeah.
think that drove a huge wedge in our family in general because all of us kids had beef. And we had beef with both of you guys, like, with
Yeah.
you and dad,
Uh,
because in my head, like, dad wasn't doing enough,
yeah.
and then, like, you weren't present, and
Right.
so I had no one, and it felt like I had no one.
Yeah.
And now looking back on it, like, I can see where, as an adult, like, I can see where my dad was really trying, and where he was trying to keep the peace, and he was trying to figure out how to, like, not that he did it perfectly, but he was trying to figure out how to keep us from just completely hating you.
Right. And
And
which I didn't know until later.
right,
Yeah.
yeah, and I say this a lot whenever I'm talking about this subject because I think it's really important. Like, he used to before my brother and I would leave for school, he would always tell us, like, "Go tell mom that you love her," and you would be, like, passed out on the couch. And I remember being so angry at him because I was like, "Why are you forcing me to
Right.
care? Like, why are you forcing me to do this?" But as I got older, I think he was trying to keep you human, and he was trying to keep you
Yeah.
not only was he trying to encourage you because he was like, "You love them, like, they're telling
Right.
you they love
Remind you.
you," but I think also it was him trying to keep us focused on the fact that, like, she's still your mom. Like,
Right.
this
And a human
sucks, but
being. Yeah. And a
right.
human being that's got her own share of problems that we forget that our parents are people, I think. And I remember him doing that, and I remember thinking, why was he making you do that? Oh, because I didn't even realize that why he was even doing that. Because to me, I didn't feel human, really. I mean, I didn't feel like I was worthy of any of it. So it didn't surprise me. And looking back, I didn't realize that he was protecting our family. He was protecting you guys. I just didn't see any of it. I was just so stuck in my own head and my own pain, um, that I couldn't see out. I couldn't see what I was doing to other people. I really thought at the time that I wasn't hurting anybody. I thought everybody is going about their bit. They all have their lives, and the only one I'm hurting is me. That's really how it felt to me. Looking back, that's just ridiculous. But that's how, at the moment, that's how you feel. I think that's what addiction does. It makes you very self-centered. It makes you very in your own thoughts, in your own head. You start to justify things just to because you think it feels better. And not dealing with things sometimes feels easier than dealing with things like this
Yeah,
that are
definitely.
heavy, heavy subjects. It's hard to talk about where you messed up and where you look back and think, "Oh, my kids are neurotic because of my own actions and because of things that I did and things that I didn't do, things that Dad didn't do, whatever." And yeah, that's a hard responsibility to wear.
Yeah,
That you are
definitely.
on the psychiatrist's couch half the time because of me, in some kind of way or another.
Well, and I think even parents who give like, parents who have given their kids, um I feel like my childhood was still really great. It just there were sections and portions of it that were really bad. But I think even parents who grow up with no like obvious in your kid's face kind of issues, like where it's obvious that something's wrong, they end up messing up their kids somehow. Like I think it's just that just happens,
It is.
like you're you're raising somebody. I don't have any kids, so I can't really say much. But I guess from a kid's perspective, I can kind of see how it's like I grew up feeling like you like at one point or another, one of you two did not understand me.
Yeah,
And it switched depending on what was going on in my
right.
life. Like once I was a teenager and you were like sober and stuff like that, then it was like dad does not understand me at all.
Yeah.
Like can't
I became
stand
yeah.
him and he has no idea what I'm going through and the emotions that I feel and all that kind of stuff. So I think no matter what, like that, like parents end up having even fantastic parents, and I think you and dad are fantastic parents, but, I think no matter what, how clean your childhood was, I
Yeah,
think you
it's a
still
good
end up
word.
coming away with
Yeah,
needing therapy from how your parents
yeah,
raised you, not because they were trying to do anything wrong, but more because it's like you, you're raising a completely different personality than yourself,
exactly,
and
exactly.
you don't know what it is that's going to hurt them. You don't know if maybe they're going to be dealing with a mental illness later in life,
Right.
or just something that they're not necessarily aware of yet because they're too young. Like it, it's impossible to know.
Well, and I think that's some of the mistake, what you just said about you're too young. I think a lot of times as parents, we think they're too young, they don't understand they won't understand. Like, I can protect them from this. I can do the little things that keep them feeling like their house is normal or their home is normal, and they won't know. And I think that that's a big mistake on a parent's end is to think that just because your kids are young, that they don't understand that there's something wrong. Yeah, I think that's kind of a huge part of it.
Yeah, definitely. Well, and I think that once you were out of jail, and I was so excited for you to come home because for so long I had been so like every day that I came home and I knew that you were like drunk or you were not, sorry, the laptop keeps going dim and I'm afraid it's going to stop recording.
And then we'll be doing all this
We're just
background.
sitting here having
We're
this
just sitting
real
in all
deep
this
conversation.
conversation, and it's like, "Oh, we're not recording, darn it.
Us
How do we repeat? How do we do that
tight.
again?"
Yeah, exactly. Anyway, so I think once you got out of jail and I kind of was grappling with like all of this resentment that I had, and but I was so excited that you were home because I knew that you had to be sober.
Yeah, there
There
was no
was
choice.
no way
No, there was no
that you
options.
were still drunk. And I think a lot of times like there was a lot of back and forth where you would be kind of sober and then you'd be really out and then you'd be really like be super sober, and I was like, "I can tell." So I think I kinda got into this place where I never really knew when I got home from school or a friend's house what I was walking into.
And that's
Like, I
exactly what
never
Chris
knew.
used to say too. My older son used to say the exact same thing, that he would walk across the grass and he didn't know which mom he was gonna get when he walked in the door,
Right.
which is just so heartbreaking when you hear that coming back at you and you realize I didn't think that you guys thought that. I thought I don't know what I thought. I think I thought that you guys wouldn't, as long as I was nice to you, maybe you wouldn't notice. I don't know. I think that's we don't think we're very self-centered, and you just think, well, somehow they'll be okay, and not really realizing what's actually happening in their lives, that you guys have anger and feelings and resentment and all that kind of stuff. It doesn't seem like you can because you're like little kids. It doesn't seem like you're real people, kind of.
Just tadpoles, yeah.
Kind of. Well, I mean, I think we fool ourselves into thinking if our kids are young, they don't understand. And I think that you guys understood a lot more than what I thought, and I think a lot more than Dad thought too. Like if he could keep things on the up and up, it would be okay, or you guys would be okay, and not know. But that's never going to be.
Yeah, we noticed,
Yeah.
but I think, like, because I never knew what I was walking into, and I never knew if, um, like, how sober you would be, like, I could never guess, um and so I think I got into this really big thing where I was like, I can't trust her. Like, I can't trust how she's going to act. I can't trust how she's going to engage with me.
Right.
I definitely can't bring anybody over because
Yeah.
I have no idea what state she's going to be in. And I can't, like, I was so terrified because I already knew. And like, this is where all of the PTA moms and all of the like the gossipy staff at my elementary school really got to me because I was old enough to know that they were talking about me.
Yeah.
I was old enough to know that the neighbor kids, their moms were afraid of you and like were afraid of me because they were like, she's a ticking time bomb. Like
Right.
she's gonna have some sort of mental breakdown and I don't want to be responsible for that. So I don't want her at my house.
Right.
And I think all of the kids kind of collectively in the neighborhood took their turns, not the kids, but the parents took their turns of being like, she's damaged and we don't want her in our house
Yeah.
and we don't want the liability of if her mom decides to do something crazy.
Yeah.
And which never happened, but and was a really awful, like, it was so awful, like so isolated. And I think this is a little bit of a like detour, but I think I just want to say that if you maybe you're a parent and like you know another another child in your kid's class or something like that has um, their parents are struggling and um, you know that maybe something is wrong or something's going on at home, or if you're a teacher and you know something's going on at home. I know that certain people are like mandated reporters and stuff has to happen, and
Right.
I understand all of that, but I think that there's um, treat the kid just as you would any other child
Yeah.
because it we notice we might be 6, 7, 8, but we notice when
Yeah.
you're treating us weird.
Right.
We notice when you're like, oh sweetie, like we can see it, it's very obvious, and it gets old real fast. I remember that was part of the anger that I had was
Yeah.
like I felt like everybody was treating me like I was some sort of weird alien that like
Yeah.
couldn't handle anything, like you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Anyways, so once you got out of jail and I I felt all this anger, but at the same time, I was so excited that you were home because I knew that you were sober.
Yeah, and I
And I
didn't
was like, this is
without
the
question.
longest she's been sober in a
Yeah.
really long time.
Mhm.
So, um, I was I was so excited to kind of start things over and I think that was where I really, as young as I was like 12,
Yeah,
I really felt like I wanted so badly to forgive you and I had to figure it out.
yeah.
And I think watching you um as you kind of came out of that experience
Mhm.
and watching you learn to live your life sober and watching you kind of get a big wake up call because jail is no joke and
No, it's no joke.
yeah and all of um the difficulties that went with you like staying sober um I think really I felt like I started to understand a little bit better and again I was still young but I started to understand a little bit better like oh she's having issues too
Yeah,
and that's part of the reason why she's doing this.
right,
It didn't make me forgive you right away, but it gave me a little bit of insight.
right.
And there were still times as I was, and I will say a whole lot less. Like it was definitely not the same once after jail. It was like,
Yeah, well, once I got out of jail, I had monitors on and I had all kinds of stuff. So there
yeah,
was a lot of big patches of sobriety that was whether I liked it or not. It was sobriety. I mean, yeah, I couldn't wash my mouth out with scope because there was like alcohol and,
I forgot
and
about that. Yeah,
that stuff like that. You had to look for alcohol and everything, so it didn't light up the monitor. so, but I think that I mean that was helpful because it didn't give me a choice, and that's how I started to get a grip on a sober life because I had those period of time where I was forced, and being forced makes you kind of figure it out because you don't have another choice. I didn't have the drinking choice. I only had the sober choice. And so you start to put things in its place or whatever. But I think that's that's kind of a big subject because I think sobriety isn't a process. I think it's not a one and done. And I think a lot of times rehabs and different things they're great, wonderful starts. You need medical help a lot of times, things like that, but it's not a one and done process. I think they set families up too to be disappointed, I think, because it seems like, oh, she's going to go in there and come out and everything will be fine. And I go in there and come out and it may be fine for a little while until it goes back to the other thing. And then we're back to the same thing again. So I think in disappointment after disappointment, how after a while you don't trust anymore. You guys don't trust, you know.
yeah,
But
yeah,
I also thought the same thing. Like I'll go in and I'll get fixed, and then I won't be the problem anymore. You know.
right,
Right.
yeah, and I also didn't realize as you were kind of going through the process um that you needed support. I was like, "She needs to figure it out by herself."
Yeah.
Like, this
Well, that's
is
what a
her
lot
and
of
her
people.
only, like,
Hmm.
it's nobody else's fault.
Yeah.
And but realizing, again, as we kinda went through this process of because after you went to jail, I feel like is when it was even in, like, times where you messed up
Hmm.
or times where, um, you kinda relapsed, in the end, the path never changed, like, it was towards
It was a
sobriety.
trajectory
Yeah.
of sobriety, and that's what I was trying to do. And I think that that's what that's part of what I feel like is important, even in this venue. Is learning, talking about that process and talking about it like from a daughter mother point of view. I had to learn how to be sober. I had to learn how to be a mom to you all over again. I had to grow up because when you drink like that, you stall yourself. You don't move forward. And so then trying to just navigate from the ground up a relationship with you that was really fractured.
Yeah, well, and I was desperate too to repair that because at once I started seeing you sober more often,
Mhm.
and I started seeing you because up until 6th grade, like up until you ended up going to jail,
Mhm.
I don't really know if I had a whole lot of you sober. Like, I mean, there were times, but I don't have a lot of memories of you before then where like alcohol wasn't in some way involved. And so when I saw you 100% sober,
Mhm.
I was like, oh, this is something worth
Right.
fighting for.
There's
Like,
a
this is
chance.
something worth. supporting you for. This is something worth forgiving you for.
Right.
And so, as I kind of realized that and got more um, excited to kind of meet you, sort of, for the
Well,
first
that's
time.
true. It's true because you guys used to say there's a other lady. There's one mom, and there's the other lady,
Right.
and it's exactly how it felt. It felt exactly like being two different people.
It
When I
really
was
did.
sober, I was one person, myself, and when I was not, I was completely different, doing things and saying things and acting in a way that I would never, ever, ever do under any other circumstances. And I feel like there's so much shame involved in that.
Yeah. And so once I realized, like, oh, I could have this person, like this actual
The
mom.
actual one that's the,
Yeah,
the
I could
actual
have
mom,
her.
not the other mom, the mom.
Right, yeah. I could have her all the time, and that was so wild to me.
Yeah,
And so, it made me more willing to forgive you. I mean, and in all of this, like, there were times where we went to, I mean, you were in AA meetings all the time.
all the time. Yeah,
Yeah, and I would come along.
on your
I was
Heelys.
Yep, I would come in there in my Heelys or whatever. I'm very familiar with AA meetings and them being at, like,
Yeah.
5 a.m.
Well,
But
you
I
were the only one that would ever go with me.
and that's the thing though, is that, like, that was me trying to support you,
Right.
because I was like, "It's so fun to get up with my mom at 5 a.m. on a Saturday morning. It's dark, and we're gonna, like, drive to an AA meeting where I barely understand what's going on, and there are a lot of, like, kinda strange people in
Well,
this
yeah, we
place."
all kind of pile up in one spot.
Yeah, and, like, um, but I loved it, and also it taught me to realize that there is a human behind every single one of these people who
Right.
all you see is them really drunk, but all of them had families. All of them had something that they were trying to
Yeah.
fix, and, all of them had really rough, like, background stories or really rough things that they were currently dealing with,
Right.
divorce and, like, trauma and childhood stuff and all this kind of stuff, and I think it really gave me an understanding of, like, "Oh, shoot." Like, they all have something, and,
Right.
I also went to, like, my own, what is it called? Al-Anon or
I
whatever?
think it was Helen for Kids or
For
one of those
kids.
things, right? I
Yeah,
think you didn't like it very much, though.
I didn't like it at all.
So
Yeah.
maybe you got pizza ahead of time or after or something like
Yeah,
that.
me and my oldest brother at this point, like, um, he was a little bit too old for a lot of the things that I ended up experiencing because
Yeah.
he's 7 years older than me.
Right.
So when I was kind of going through a lot of this, he was already either maybe not moved out, but he was, like,
Pretty
able
much
to be
gone. He was
kind of
elsewhere,
gone. Yeah,
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 at a
yeah.
friend's house or whatever. He spent a lot of
Yeah,
time
he was old
away.
enough to kind of be away and stuff, but I
Yeah.
was so young that like I said before, no parent wanted to watch me. No other, like, parent or other one of my friends' parents or whatever really wanted the responsibility of me. I think another part of that too, not that it's all on you. I'm also a type 1 diabetic, and
Yeah.
I
There
think
was
that
there
was
was it was a compound subject,
I think
because
I
it's
know
it's true.
yeah, I think I know why I feel like a burden most of the
Yeah,
times. Like, I
yeah.
think as a kid, like, that was
Ugh,
really, like, a thing for me. It was, like, not only, like, like, quote, "my family bad," but also I have this, like, health issue that nobody wants to touch because they're like, "If she passes out, like, I'm gonna have to call an like, suburban
exactly.
mom drama, like, I just yeah, so, anyways, that was off topic, but, yeah, I used to go to these, like, Al-Anon I'm, like, realizing things as we're having this conversation, but
That's what we always do. I mean, I feel like that's the whole gist of this whole thing, is that this is how it happens. You and I, like, this is miraculously how all of these conversations happen, is we start on one thing and then we just go down all these topics and we wind up wherever we wind up,
right,
and
yeah.
bringing other people into that and just saying, "Here, this is the good, bad, and ugly,"
Yeah,
you know?
and, so I would go to these, like, Al-Anon for kid meetings or whatever, and, I would go with my older brother, and, it was it was wild in there. There were kids that had some really intense issues, who everybody dealt with their parents differently. Some of them did not know why they were there. Some of them very much knew why they were there, but absolutely hated, like, the entire concept.
Right.
I think a lot of them had emotional, um, issues and um, but again, like, just as I was saying before with being with all the adults, like, when I was with all these kids, it was like, it gave me so much empathy because I was like, "Man, like, this situation for me sucks, but some of these kids in here, like, like, are going through even worse."
Right.
And
It puts some perspective.
it really does.
Yeah.
Like, at least I have a place to go. Like, at least I have, like, a home
Yeah. Yeah, I
like, at
think
least I
whenever
have
yeah.
one parent who's, not drinking or whatever. Because a
Right.
lot of them, both of their parents
Both,
were,
yeah, or both
um
addicted to something.
right, and it was so sad. So I think it gave me a lot of perspective and made me all the more willing to try with you because I
Mhm.
was like, I do not wanna be this is not how I wanna spend the rest of my life,
Right.
um, and we also started to kind of bond over our love of a few different things as we were kind of trying to repair our relationship. Like, first of all, we both were able to find humor in just about every situation,
Everything, and it
which is
becomes
really fun.
ridiculously funny
Yeah,
everywhere.
and I think we had like enough experiences where we had just shared some silly moments that we were able to kind of laugh at some of the darker pain
Yeah,
because it was like we can either cry about this and be mad at each other for the
yeah.
rest of our lives, or we can just laugh and like try and make this in some way, in some way, how do you say it, palatable?
Palatable, I think
um, yeah, and kind of get through it. And I think we've always kind of had this running joke where, and it's probably pretty obvious just based on our difference in outfit choices
yeah, I'm
and
the
general
s
aesthetic, but
generally sunshine,
but
and
mom is
then
definitely
little
joy and sunshine.
little rain, which is that's kind of ironic if you think about the situation that got us here, is like I was the dark one and you were the light one, and now you're the dark one and I'm the light one.
It's so true. I was way more joyous as a kid. Yeah, I don't know what happened. I never came out of my emo phase, I guess, but yeah, I tend to be generally kind of a rain cloud and kind of like um kind of pessimist. Well, I'm not even going to say kind of. I can be very pessimistic and very
I
like
think critical is a better
critical.
word.
Yeah, I'm a bunch of different things that are very negative, I think.
Well, good for some in some way. I mean, good for some things. But sometimes it makes it hard for you, and it makes it hard for other people to know what you're trying to say.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I am kind of generally that way. And I think something that as we were kind of repairing our relationship, something that I realized I could learn from you is how to be a little bit more joyous. Like how to kind of laugh at stuff, even though
Right.
maybe it isn't like super fun or like I like a million and five times like something has gone wrong when we've been like a doctor's appointment that we missed or something would happen that like um
Going to your doctor appointment and getting lost and ended up in Palm Springs
yeah
because I
like
took the wrong freeway, and it was like, oh,
yeah
I didn't want to go to that appointment anyway.
Yeah, to some context to that particular one is like I had an endocrinologist appointment I wanted to go to, but or I wanted to go to. I did not want to go. I
No, you did not.
I
We were fighting the
desperately
whole
we
way.
were
We were,
fighting the
yeah.
whole way because I was in high school at this point. I was going through a phase where I really didn't want to take care of myself, and my particular endo was not the best fit for me, and and so I really didn't wanna go, and I felt like mom was kidnapping me and taking me to this doctor's appointment, and we were, like, fighting the whole way, and then finally we, like, look around, and we've been, like, driving in the same direction for a super long
Yeah.
time, and we finally look around and we're like, "We're not. Like, how much longer do we have to be there?" And you were like, "I can't find the exit."
Well, I couldn't. I couldn't.
And for good reason, we went the opposite way, like,
No, I went on the wrong freeway. I picked the
so
wrong
long.
freeway altogether. We were
We ended
completely
up by the windmills of
at
Palm
Palm
Springs.
Springs.
Which, like, is very far away from where we live, and so I was, yeah, I
Well, I
was
think did we miss it? We missed the appointment, I think.
oh,
Well,
100% we
yeah,
missed the
so
appointment.
well, so that you actually had an ulterior motive when you
Well, it made it funny because at first I was so much more annoyed because I was like, "Great, now this appointment's just gonna be way later on in the day."
Right.
But when we called the office, they were like, "Well, you're so late that
No,
just
I think they said it
reschedule."
was yesterday.
You're
Remember? It was
right.
yesterday. That's what they
What?
said. We were out there and it's like, "Are you kidding me? It wasn't even today. We're not even on the right
So
day. We're not on the right freeway. We're not on the
we
right
went
day."
the wrong way for, like, so long.
Yeah.
And also, it wasn't even the right day
No, it was
to
wrong
be. They were
wrong
like, "Oh,
day.
you missed it
This was
yesterday."
yesterday at 3 or
And it
something like
was
that.
like, at that point, I was so mad. But as soon as you started to giggle, it was just, the whole thing became really funny.
And it was really ridiculously funny.
It
And I think
was.
that it's interesting too, your perspective about not wanting to go and that I was kidnapping you and stuff like that.
Against my will.
Against your will. But given our history, if I would have not taken you to your doctor's appointments, that comes out I come out on the short end of that because of our history. Like, I look like the bad guy because I'm not taking care of you. So, for me, the making sure that we got to the appointments was also self-serving because I didn't wanna ever be accused of not taking care of you because I knew who we'd already been down that road. So,
Yeah, and that was something, obviously, it's like, I was like 15.
yeah,
I was not thinking of, but yeah, that's a really good point. And in the end, like, I needed to go to those. Like,
yeah,
I was in a very stubborn phase of my life where I was like, if I ignore it, it'll go away. And that's not how any of it works. So yeah, I think that we have just grown in a lot of different, and we have like stories for days about a bajillion different
yeah, we're
things
gonna
that,
need like 100 hours in it.
yeah, to go through all of the wild things that have happened to both of us, and in the process of us learning how to love each other and learning how to forgive each other. Because
Yeah,
I mean, like, things, obviously, like, what happened created a lot of trauma with me, but it also
mhm,
created a lot of trauma with you.
yeah,
And I was not the kindest. And none of us kids were very kind because we
right,
were all hurt and mad.
right,
And so we also did things that hurt you, and that's also valid. Like, that
yeah,
we hurt you as well.
mhm,
And so us, in the process of us kind of trying to forgive each other, we formed a really strong bond,
yeah,
and
definitely.
we also both love to talk, and that
Obviously. Like,
that
don't give them a mic.
yeah. Oh, too late,
I
yeah.
know,
We
see,
bought it.
I know, yeah, yeah, nobody can take it away.
No, these are ours now,
Yes, I
yeah.
know.
And, we just learned how to be, um we learned how to, like, talk things out and
Yeah,
be, understanding of each other, and that we're coming from 2 very different perspectives,
right,
and being able to learn from each other, I
yeah,
think was, so great. And, like, as soon as I realized, um, that you wanted to hear me, like, you wanted to hear what I had to say,
yeah,
and you wanted to talk to me just as much as I wanted to talk to you.
mhm,
It made me feel like, "Okay, I can trust you."
right.
Um,
Well, and it's interesting too because I got bumped into that spot because of, other folks in the family that had experienced kind of similar things, and that particular person did not want to, own any of the things that they had done, and that was making the children or the kids at that time not be able to I mean, they didn't trust her at all because she wouldn't own any of it. And so I saw that happen and watched it happen in another family. And I knew that at some point, no matter how much it hurt, I had to hear you and your experience, Chris's experience next, because that's important that I realize how much it impacted me for you to learn and vice versa, because it does, you know.
yeah, it does. And yeah, so I think we've just ended up being able to come out on a different side of it. And honestly, our whole family really, like, is
Yeah.
such a miracle in every way. We started out, and with all this happening, like, we all started out so separate from each other. All of us siblings. I mean, I my brother and I hated each other until
Yeah.
I think I was like 16. And now, like, we love each other, and we all are able to, um, bond with each other. We're all very close, which is just something that I never imagined would happen. And it goes to show, like, um, picking up all those pieces is so worth it. Like,
Yeah.
it takes a long
And it's
time.
hard. I mean, I think that it's hard. Nobody wants to do the hard things. It's like everybody wants to be better, but nobody wants to do anything hard.
Yeah,
Whether it doesn't matter who it is, there's work to be done and things to be talked about and stuff like that. But
yeah. So it take took such a long time.
hmm
But now us being here is such a cool thing because I feel like now we've kind of gotten to a point where we're able to uh, talk with each other about so much, and we're so open with each other, and um, it's become a thing where now we can record it and put it on the internet, and kind of be able to share some of our relationship with other
Right.
people, which has always been something so cool. Like whenever she and I have talked at a couple different like AA
Yep.
meetings and different
Mhm.
like little events and stuff like that throughout our lives, because our story is like incredible. Like the turnaround is so incredible.
Yeah, people don't believe it. I think so many people lose their kids or lose their parents, to one way or the other. They never really get through it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
and
so
we did.
we've always been really encouraged after talking about and telling our story and stuff, and bringing it to other people. I feel like
Yeah,
is such a cool thing, and I
yeah,
want to be a part of that like
yeah.
healing process, and I want to be a part of something where we can both talk about our own experiences in multiple different situations. Like this is kind of us just introducing ourselves and our own story, so there's some, sorry if that made a noise, so that there's some sort of background.
Yeah, kind of where we came, where we start, how we. It wasn't a normal. Sorry,
You're okay.
it wasn't a normal way of getting to this age. It was very rocky and very difficult, and we. It's a miracle that we got through all of it and wound up on this side of it, and then making sure that other people know that it's possible, that there is hope. There's hope no matter how much hurt. There is hope for relationships, even through addiction.
Yeah, absolutely.
Hmm.
Yeah, so that's like where we kind of wanted to start this, and then I think from here, um, I know like we've been going and kind of talking to each other about like, oh, really wanting to have like an episode dedicated to talking about like difficult relationships and like
Right.
talking about mental illness and talking about
Exactly.
um, you know, just a whole gamut of different things, and kind of the feelings and the pain and also the good feelings and like the joy behind like a lot of different things that both of us have encountered in our lives,
Right.
and giving two different perspectives on it.
Right.
So,
Well, and I think discovering too that we handle things very differently, but we're going through the same thing. Like we
mhm,
have such similar, whatever the situation is. You handle it different, I handle it different. But if I allow you your experience and you allow me mine, then we can learn from each other. That's
absolutely,
awesome.
yeah. So, and we would love to hear from you guys too, because I'm sure that
Yeah, absolutely.
people have different stories of their own. So, definitely comment, and I would love to hear what people thought about this, and what maybe if you guys have any topics or anything that you would like to hear us talk about, or questions that you might have, like we
Or
can
for a
also do
mom,
that as
yeah,
well.
yeah, exactly. For a mom to a daughter to a mom,
Yeah.
any questions, because I think that is our motivation,
Yeah.
is to bring people in and I don't know, give them a little of the joy that we get from our friendship.
Yeah, yeah, and all the different things that we've been through
Hmm.
together. So we'd love to hear from you guys as well. And also, so I'm going to try this week to set up an Instagram account. So because I haven't set it up yet, I don't know what the name of it is going to be, but I'll either edit it in, or I'll leave it in the description box below, so that you guys can go and follow that Instagram account, because I'm aware that we probably need some social media, but the only
I
platform I know
I
how
am
to
not the person for that.
the only platform that I understand at all is Instagram. So that'll probably be what it ends up being. So I'll definitely put that in. And yeah, thank you guys so much for listening.
Yeah, this
Um,
is it's a story.
it's a story, yeah.
It's a
And I'm
story.
sure, like, again, we haven't touched on all of it. So I'm sure, like, in future episodes and stuff, like, more will come out
Yeah.
and more will be talked about, because it was such a long, like, span of time.
It was. You can't describe it in this amount of time, but we
No.
can hit little bits and pieces and set it up for other conversations, I think.
Yeah. And again, like, if you guys have any questions about anything specific, like, we're super open to all of that. And
Hmm.
yeah, so thank you guys so much for listening, and we're gonna try and put out an episode every Friday. So,
The
um,
life and times of.
yeah, dear diary.
Yeah,
Hopefully we'll have a better outro.
I know.
We'll figure it out.
We got to figure out an outro, but for
Yeah,
now, it's mom out. Allie,
it's,
Allie
it's
out.
she was saying in our test run, she was like, "Mom out."
That's the way to end. Okay.
Yeah.
Bye, everyone.
Bye. Thank you.